again with another episode of The High Ground powered by Premier Companies. Good morning, Sal.
Hey, how we doing?
Great. Hey, we got Aaron Bledsoe back with us with another USDA report, and we're going to talk a little bit about planting intentions. And to timestamp this, it's Good Friday, April 15th, 2022, and we've had sunshine for 2 days in a row. That's new. So, so we'll kick it to you, Sal. Do you have anything to ask before we get started?
No, not really. I'll just put a little levity on this. We just, if you're watching on YouTube, and the camera's probably on me right now, you can see behind me is a couple of fat heads. Behind my fat heads, we had these, these showed up, and I'm not sure who sent them in there, but a little anxious with those looking over my shoulder while I talk.
Well, that one's not much of a likeness to me. It makes me think that maybe that's what people want me to look like. So
a caricature?
Yeah, exactly. That's what they want me to look like. And I do, before we get kicked off with Aaron, I do want to go back and address. We released one a while back. It was kind of funny. We talked about a lot of funny stuff, and we covered a lot of things. You guys got me sidetracked by making fun of me on everything I said, and I did want to go ahead and say that I didn't mention my family at all. So I do want to say that to tie into that video that I am married for 24 years with a wife that puts up with a lot of crap from me, and I have a 20-year-old daughter who is a junior in college and a 17-year-old son who is a junior in high school. So, yeah, I didn't mention them in that. So, in the process of you guys.
Sounds like you might have got called out on that last
I didn't. They actually didn't say anything about it.
Pretty top of mind.
But you guys all sounded like these consummate family men, and I sounded like something. So, anyway. So, Aaron, before we destroy this thing any further, why don't you tell us what's going on in your world?
Well, it's funny you brought up family because my wife asked me if I was going to give her a shout out today in the video like I did last time. I said, I don't really have much to say, sweetheart, right now.
Right. But I should.
Yeah. I'll try to think of something. I guess this was it. Hi.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Leslie.
Yeah. So since the last time I was on, we've had two reports. The big one was the prospective planning report at the end of March. That was the one that really shook up the market as to where we're at right now. We just had one last Friday on April 8th. That was the monthly USDA report. And to just go over that monthly one, it was kind of it wasn't a big, it was good in the sense that prices shrugged it off for the most part because corn overall, it really wasn't a bullish report, and yet we've continued to climb that chain on the price. Corn overall, you had feed demand go down 25 million bushels, but ethanol picked all of that back up. So you had a loss of 25 million bushels in feed usage, picked it up in ethanol usage. Ending stocks net ended up being the same as what it was in March, 1.4 billion bushels. So as 1.4 versus last year, we were at 1.2. So we've got another 200 million bushels than what we had last year. Brazil, talking globally for corn, Brazil production was up 2 million metric tons. China imports were down 3 million metric tons. So global ending stocks overall were up 4.5 million metric tons to 305. And versus last year, that's 292. That's a lot of numbers just to say that right now the ending stocks for the U.S. stayed the same as what they did last month. Slightly higher than what we had last year. Globally, we've got more corn than what we did last year. So overall, somewhat of I wouldn't say bearish, but just kind of a status quo report. And yet we continue to see prices go up since that report. Beans, exports went up 25 million bushels. So ending stocks went down 25 million bushels. That was the gist of that report for U.S. We're down to 260. Last year, 257. So we're roughly in the same position as we were last year. Global stocks were down fractionally 0.4 million metric tons to 89.6. Last year we were 103. So globally, we're down a little bit more than what we are U.S. wise. The big thing on that one was China's imports. They actually dropped it. So I know a lot of people keep thinking that, well, Brazil had such a horrible crop, we're going to have to pick up the slack. Well, we do, but China's demand overall has kind of dropped from what they were really thinking. And we saw it on the corn and the beans right now, which is kind of a little puzzling, but you throw in the fact that they've been locked down for the last couple of weeks, kind of makes sense.
Seems like their imports just almost unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really, is there any pattern? Because it certainly doesn't seem like to me as a layman watching what they do with imports. It's almost like they come in the market and they're there and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are I would call them opportunistic buyers. I mean, they have to have X amount, but the way they run their government over there in their country, they can kind of do what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's not quite like it's not as free of a market as we are here in the U.S., so it's a little bit more unpredictable. And there's a lot of people in the industry that always question any kind of report that China puts out. So
that's true. From a marketer standpoint, I mean, what's going through your mind right now following what should be kind of a bearish report, but yet the market keeps trending up?
Yeah.
So what's going through, not to put you on the spot, but
that's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why you're here, right?
Yeah, that's kind of where it's kind of weird for me, because I've got two different sides of this thing going right now. You know, there's the merchandiser, the grain elevator side that's saying, I want to help our customers do what's best for them. And everyone's operation is a little different. But then you've got the spec side of this where, you know, kind of talking two different languages. One from the grain elevator side of, okay, how does this affect us as a business? And then you've got the price-oriented side, which would be the grower side. And what kind of picture does that look like? And I'll be honest, it's tough right now to really pick a spot on how high this corn can get. You know, like you said, it was not a bullish report by any stretch of the imagination, and yet we just shrugged it off. And I think a lot of that comes back to the report at the end of March, the planting report. That was a doozy. Corn is no longer king in the U.S. Beans will be the king this year, at least what they're projecting. You know, corn came in at 89.5 million acres. The average guess was 92, so they missed that by 2.5 million acres. Last year we were at 93.4. So what is that? 3.9 million acre decrease in corn. And I think that's where the big focus has finally shifted. And we felt like we knew we didn't have a problem with this old crop corn. It was always what is this new crop acre and bushels? What are they going to look like? I mean, the market's always focused on the here and now. I've said it before. It's a baby. It's either hungry or it's happy and it's sleeping. When it's hungry, you get volatile markets. It's going all over the place because it's crying, it's screaming. It wants fed. When it's happy, it's a dull market. It's subtle. The volatility's out of it. And all the volatility you would think should be in the new crop, not in the old crop. Old crop, we had a record crop. Pipelines backed up around we are. I mean, it's just like, what are we going to do with all this corn? I mean,
it's plug full. It's just plug full.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, everyone's tried to empty out to follow what the market's telling you and sell it and sell all of it, but we can't because we can't move it all. And then you know, what is this? 2-3 years into this whole COVID thing, and we're still seeing it in China. So you throw all that in, and this market's just crazy. I think all of that is playing on the grower's mind right now, and even on my mind is trying to pick a top on this corn. I don't know. I think the big focus needs to be on new crop now, old crop. Everyone's making money at these prices. The input costs for this crop that we're sitting in the bins right now, not nearly as high as what it is right now for the acres that we're going to plant. We're wet here in southern Indiana. West of the Mississippi, super dry. I don't know how this thing plays out, really. I don't feel like acres increase, though. I don't think they do.
Who's running now? Do you know? I mean, what's it look like now? Who's planting? Who's going? Louisiana, Texas. Texas is dry. Mm-hmm. Louisiana is wet. Or is that just a no-go for all of them? Have they? I mean, obviously, I think I heard the other day that their April 1 is like our June 1 as far as cutting off corn and moving on. Have they switched and moved on?
You know, I don't know yet. I think it's still a little early. I mean, because I kind of go back to 19. You know, 19 was a wet spring, but it was more of a wet spring in a large area. Seems like we're wet in certain areas, dry in a lot of other areas. But 19, for everyone's reference, that was a year where planting was delayed a lot for corn. And, we went into that August report, that late summer going into harvest thinking, USDA is going to drop the acreage number. They have to. We didn't plant that much corn. They got to drop the bushels per acre, and they didn't. They didn't do it at all. They actually raised the corn acres, and it was like, well, if we can get the acres planted in that type of year, you got to wonder what we can do in this type of year. I read an article where they're worried about sidewall compaction now in wet soils. That'll be something to watch in our area, I think. Full caveat, I'm not an agronomist, so you better talk to your account managers and Sal about that. But, worried about the wet soils. But, I had a farmer the other day say, I'd rather be a little wet than too dry. Because at some point, we can get the acres in the ground. At what yield per acre, though?
Yeah.
That'll be the big question. I have a hard time. I think the big thing is I have a hard time seeing us hit the 180 average of what they're projecting for us.
Yeah, this time last year, we were finishing up with corn. Mm-hmm. And so now what's going through a grower's mind, a grower tells me they're pretty operationally focused at the moment. We got to kill this cover crop. And for those that aren't familiar, in a lot of no-tilling and different operations, we put down a lot of cover crops, and we got to terminate that crop at some point to put the new crop in. And we've got, wheat and rye getting pretty tall out there in the fields, and it gets harder to kill as it gets bigger. And also we have some product shortages. So growers in the very near term are very operationally focused. But I think in the back of their minds, they know, we all know that high prices cure high prices. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's the fear factor there of you feel like, I think, not to put words in everyone's mouths, but you should be selling, right? Mm-hmm. And contracting, but it's still going up.
Yeah.
And how do you say it before? Is that you didn't lose you lost an opportunity, but you didn't lose money.
Exactly. Yep. It's not like you lost 50 cents because it ran up 50 cents. You lost out on that margin, that potential margin, but you secured it from losing the 50 cents too. So it's just two different ways of thinking it. You're either protecting what you have right at the second with the chance of losing out on a little bit more, or you're protecting what you have so you don't lose any less than what you have right this second. And I think right now, as far as, this is the merchandiser side. This is me trying to come up with a plan for everybody. I've got a couple customers. They've got a decent amount of bushels booked for this fall on corn, and we're starting to pull that aggressiveness back. We've averaged into this thing pretty well. We started on a good pace. We've maintained about 30 to 40%. Now that we're at 40% for some guys, we're really starting to dial this thing back. We're starting to see, because we're going to start to watch what this thing does in the May-June time frame. Historically, May, June are great times to sell old crop and new crop bushels. It just is, because you've got multiple things going on. You're watching the planting progress. You're looking at U.S. weather, what it's looking like. Are we getting the rain? Are we not getting the rain? And those are the big things. And you're also starting to find out a little bit more about the Brazilian safrinha corn at that point. Historically, those are great times to be looking at price and fall corn, or if you still got stuff in the bin, it's a great time to do that as well. So we're taking a little bit of a step back, and we're putting in targets that may seem crazy. We've got a couple targets working at 750 now for fall, or at least that's what I would suggest. Now, every market's different. I will say that every market's different, and that's something that we're probably going to see play out in this scenario this fall. You're going to have your which they're always different. Ethanol markets are different than your feed markets, and both of those are different than your river markets. But I think we're going to see big diversities this fall. Just like the USDA report said, feed went down 25 million bushels. Ethanol went up 25 million bushels. Some of that you can probably thank Biden for one thing, and that he said, okay, well, let's, blend some more ethanol. Let's go through the summer with E15 instead of cutting it off. So your ethanol markets, that basis could get high because they're using more. Ethanol stocks were down as well. So basis, when I say basis, how bad do they want the corn? Well, ethanol markets may want it more than your feeders do, because at some point that corn's really expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it gets really expensive to feed your chickens, your turkeys, all that. At what point do you see more of a market for the ethanol than you do for the feed markets? So for my area over in Lagodi, at my location, I'm saying 750 targets right now, and I'm not promising anything, but I feel like it's going to hit in the next 2-3 weeks.
Well, and I said high prices cure high prices, but I think there's another piece of this, and this is, you know, did it shrug off this report because this is just the inflation that we're living in, and is that built into this? You know, is the inflation rates that we're seeing now is that just into the commodity market, and we think it's stuck here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I was more of an economist than my little brain.
We'll get one of those on our podcast.
That's what we need.
Yeah. But these are all, I mean, we're kind of talking all over the board on this right now with where corn is, what it can do, what's going through growers' minds. I mean, they're very operationally focused right now because they're starting to get pushed up against the wall of when they can't go, they're going to have to go, and they're going to have to go quick because we don't know how big that window is going to be. Right now, the windows, they've been real narrow. So when we go, we're going to go really hard. The last thing I want to do is lose out on some of this really good money potential right now. I mean, like we talked on the last podcast when I was on, the price to play is very high. But right now, with these prices continuing to go up, it makes you a lot of money. It's very, very good money right now for corn. So what I don't want to see is us not take some advantage. You know, I said I hit the pause button on some of my guys. Other guys, they don't have hardly anything priced yet. So we're a little bit more aggressive on them on saying, okay, instead of maybe shooting for that 750, let's shoot for that 725 mark.
And you're still saying 40%?
Yeah, I'm saying 40% now, yeah. But if you get to 40%, I might dial it back. I might wait and see how this thing plays out. But that's also up to you as a farmer as well. If you want to get a little bit more, we'll help you get a little bit more in a staggered manner.
So you're saying 40% at these levels with some targets at 750. If somebody feels like they want to do a little more than that, you're just telling them set higher targets.
So if they want to get a little bit more sold, percentage-wise, a lower target. If they're at 40 and they want to take a little bit more of a risk, or they want to just hit the pause button for longer, $7.50, $7.75, $8 even.
But if you want to sell, if you're less than 40% sold, or you want to sell more than 40%, then dial back your targets to something a little less.
Yeah. If you're not to 40% by now, I would suggest, let's just get some on the books, just to protect yourself.
You said something. I got a question here that with you talk about the difference in the markets, whether it's a feed or an. Should you be setting some maybe modest targets in different markets?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So be conscious of where you're selling and what the market is.
Yep, and that's why I brought up the basis, because the basis. So you've got your futures contracts, which last time I was on, D's corn was 655. Well, now we're at 735. It's Good Friday, markets are closed day, so that was a close of Thursday. We're 735. That's 80 cents in a month. And we were a little higher than that, a little lower than that, but net, we're 80 cents higher for fall corn right now. Now, that's futures. So when you go to your ethanol market for fall, I haven't looked at them. I think the last time I looked at them, you may have like a 10 under. So your 735 with basis is now 725. So if you set a target, that's like I said, you got to understand your market. If 725 makes you money, then you can get that right now. That's not a target. That's just picking up a phone saying, hey, I want to sell 725 corn. Okay, done. Locked it in. At my place, where we've got more of a feed market and a river market down there, fall basis is a little weaker. So at 735 with my basis of 25 under, I'm 710. So that 725 is a true target at that point. I think we'll get there. I'm not worried about that at all. But that's the speculation side talking.
Sure.
Too. That's why it's a little weird right now because everybody wants to know, well, where do you think this thing's going to go? And it's always whispers.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if I want to sell 725 corn. What if I want to sell 775? I don't think you're greedy by any means. I mean, I think the market has shown where we might get there.
I was at the equipment dealership yesterday. I tore up my skid steer, and I won't get into the story, but I had to get some hydraulic fittings, and the same thing. I was at the counter, and then a grower was like, hey, and then we kind of pulled off to the side and kind of had some, the whisper conversation, and just, what do you think about this? And what should we be doing now? And then it gets into products and shortages, and heck, I had to make a grocery run last night, and it's just weird. I mean, I was going to go pick up some graham crackers, make s'mores, right? Got to make s'mores.
I was going to ask you if you're going to make s'mores.
Heck yeah. Why else would you get a graham cracker? but it's just weird to see the different product shortages on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes you feel weird. It's just an icky feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, high prices fix high prices.
Yep.
I don't know where that high price is. I don't know when it will turn. At some point, it will turn. I mean, the market has always shown at some point it will turn or it will run, one or the other. And when it needs to sit still, it will sit still. But it's always changing. Something's always going on with it. The best cure for low prices is low prices, because then low prices will always push away your supply, and it'll increase your demand, which will then all of a sudden start to pull your supply back up because you have to meet that demand. Well, high prices will push your demand down. And then what does that do? It pushes your supply down because the market doesn't want as much, which then you get into the low prices, fix low prices. So it's a cycle. It's an ebb and flow through all of this. At some point, it will correct itself. I don't know when.
And then
None of us do.
Got the global wild card with those poor folks in the Ukraine right now. I don't know how you would farm.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one that there's so much uncertainty in that one. I mean, we've never experienced any breadbasket nation get invaded like this. I mean, we've seen other nations get invaded, but this is a breadbasket nation that provides the globe with a lot of products. And a lot of stuff we don't think about. I mean, I never once thought about sunflower oil. Who does?
No.
I mean, you don't think about that, but that plays into the bean market. We've spent all this time talking about corn. Beans, the planting report of 90.9 million acres. The average guess was 88.7. Last year we were 87.2. That's 3.5 million acre increase. And yet beans are still acting favorably for us.
Never thought about that, Aaron. A breadbasket country experiencing a war. It's always been kind of in sands and rocks and places like that.
Yep. Yeah, and beans, last time I was on there, $14.91. They're $15.01 now, 20 cents. But you want to talk about a roller coaster. Beans can go on a roller coaster ride. I mean, if you look at them in the morning, they'll be down 20, and then by the end of the day, they'll be up 15. If you like watching colors flash before your eyes, the bean market is a great one to watch.
On the sunflower oil not coming back into the market like it could have. I'm assuming not only is there planting of the sunflowers being affected, but there's probably product there that's not getting shipped currently. So, I mean, this is quicker. It's not like we're waiting on a crop not to get planted. So this 90.9 million is partly due to increased input costs on corn. Mm-hmm. How much of that something vegetable oil replacing sunflower oil is in that number? I mean, do we even think 90.9 is enough if we're going to shut down the number one sunflower producing country in the world?
So that's a big question, and my thoughts on beans. I like beans long term. I really do.
Yeah, you were cheerleading for beans last time.
Yeah, I really like beans long term. Even with a 90.9 million acre crop, I like beans long term. It's going to take a while. I mean, everyone's talking about these soy biodiesel plants and everything. I mean, it takes years to get these things built, and then it takes a while for them to get operational. But long term, I love beans. I do. I like them. They have a good play. Crush margins have been phenomenal for guys. Export market has been decent. So we've literally got everything kind of running for us on the beans. Last year we were at 257. We're at 260 for the ending stocks. Global, we're down from last year. It feels like even with the big crop, beans are good. My watch out on beans will be, this is a long-term play that I'm talking about with beans. I like beans long-term. This fall, with corn being delayed, at what point, you brought up, when do we swap acres? If we had full intentions of planting corn, but we just couldn't get it done, at what point do you swap out and go to beans? That 90.9 could increase. And that's a speculation. You don't know. I mean, we won't know until the June report comes out, and even that can get revised in later on. So these are a lot of things to be on the watch out for, to be thinking about. I know there's a lot of noise out there. I feel bad for the farmers this year. I really do. I mean, I know what it's like sitting in my seat trying to watch these markets. Farmers are watching the fertilizer market. They're watching the chemical market. They're worried about if they can get it, when will they get it, what's corn going to do. I think even farmers are a little nervous they're even saying, this isn't good for anybody when corn is almost $8. Like, it's just not good for the market, because you're starting to push people out of the mom and pop, cattle farmers. What is this doing to the local business at this point? And I don't know.
I don't think I do either, but it does feel bad.
Well, I never thought about the cow-calf operation, which is a big part of when you talk about the small business, and when you talk about animal herds, those cow-calf operations, that is kind of like the small business of livestock, and it is ungodly expensive.
Yep.
To try to maintain a herd like that, and in this environment.
Yep.
Boy, I tell you, I think we got more questions than answers on this one. Wish we had a crystal ball sometimes. Maybe we wouldn't like what we see in the future, but at least we get an indication.
Yeah. I think, and I just thought about this. This is not pre-scripted on it by any stretch of the imagination.
I think they can tell that none of this is pre-scripted.
What are you talking about? Yeah. I'd say the shine from the polish is almost blinding.
I think, and if anybody outside, if anybody watches this that's not a farmer or in the ag industry, my mind's even blown sometimes when I figure out what these corn bushels and bean bushels actually go towards. I think we have such a small window or small picture of what these bushels actually do for the globe. Everyone thinks, well, corn's used for ethanol. Like, okay, well, yeah, corn's used for ethanol. Corn's for alcohol, too. Your medical alcohol, your drinking alcohol, any type. I mean, it comes out dextrose, which is practically in everything. Your high fructose corn sugar. Yeah, I mean, you've got all these things. And regardless of your opinion on if you think it's bad for you or not, you're kidding yourself if you don't realize that this corn is literally in everything that we do. Beans are, too.
Yeah.
I mean, your vegetable oils. I mean, you can't go to a restaurant, have dinner without having something to do with a soybean bushel. And I think that's something that we have to understand. You brought up inflation, high prices cure high prices. At some point, this comes back to the consumer. And these products are used for so many things. And it blows my mind every single time someone's like, oh, yeah, we use this for this product. Or we use the byproduct of what somebody else does for this. It's like, oh, my gosh.
Distiller's grain.
Yeah, your mom and pop, 250-acre farmer, they just helped you make Smirnoff. You didn't know that, did you? I mean, it's crazy.
I don't know what he's talking about.
What brand is that? What?
Yeah.
No, you're right, though. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing to break this down. What do the grains go to? What grains do what? Mm-hmm. And
that's interesting because we did that with the with barrel of oil.
With a barrel of oil.
And that was a lot of folks like that. So I think we'll do that next time.
Yeah. Yeah, but
give you some homework.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't like school very well, Sal. No, if I had to wrap all this up into a nutshell, somehow we always end up, when I'm on, and maybe it's me, I'm just a Debbie Downer, maybe, I don't know. But it always seems like we have a connotation of, boy, I don't know about this. Look, this is a great time. As a farmer, if you can get the crop on the ground, this is great. You've got high prices. Yes, you have high input costs, but these high prices pay for those high input costs, and you make money. I mean, this is the type of year where you can still bank some money and save some for those bad years when we do have some low prices. It can help your operation. I just don't want to get too far out over the skis and take a really big tumble, because when we do take a tumble at these levels, whether prices drop or whether we just get a little too greedy, it's going to hurt.
And there's risk management tools now. We've got better financing options. The secure financing that we offer through Premier Ag that lets you give flexibility to market your grain into 23, and low interest and flexible financing. And there's good crop insurance now today.
Yep. I say the recap. The one final thing, and this is a little bit of a pitch here, at the Lagodi facility, at the grain facility, the Lagodi Mill, and Worthington, we do an average pricing contract. This is that time of year when we start doing this. You know, I brought up May, June being very good time frames to be pricing new crop corn. This average pricing starts mid-May and it runs through the remainder of May, June, and July. And simple math, if you say I want to enroll 12 bushels in this program, it's a 12-week program. One of those 12 bushels will get priced every Wednesday at the close, at our fall posted bid. At the end of that 12 weeks, all 12 of those bushels that you submitted, all those get averaged out over the prices that you locked in every Wednesday. So we're trying to take advantage of this really good window of time, and this year looks like a phenomenal year for this. Last year it worked out. Some guys say, well, sometimes it doesn't work out, and it didn't. 2 years ago, it didn't work out. But you still sold stuff at profitable numbers.
It's an index fund.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So this is another way to average into this thing. I mean, no pun intended. It's an average contract, but you can average into these prices. If it continues going up, you can't think of it as, well, I lost 50 cents because it ran up between May to July 50 cents. No, you averaged into this thing. So at the end of it, you're going to have a nice price per bushel, and that's beans and corn. So
we've had I know we've had several listeners that have heard us, and you told me last week about one of the growers from the eastern side of our territory was over picking up some equipment or parts, and wasn't too far away from Lagodi, and looked you up and had a nice conversation. So I think that's a key part is communicate with a trusted advisor, get more input, and it always generates things and ideas that we hadn't thought about before.
Yep. We're free, so by all means, give us a call. Even if that doesn't mean bushels come to me, I'll try to help you out, or at least steer you in the right direction to make some kind of educated guess on where this thing could do.
Good deal.
Okay. That's all I've got. We'll wrap it up, and we'll have you back in another month or before then to give us all of that information that you're going to gather on what grains are used for. So.
Yay!
Yeah. So anyway, as a reminder, everyone, look us up on anywhere you find podcasts and YouTube, and be sure to follow and like and subscribe. And until next time, Sal, this is another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies.